Welcome to Corpus Studios. My name is Kelly McKinnon, and I'm the owner and director of education for Corpus Studios in Brussels, Belgium. Today we will look at the body and asymmetry. Many clients come to the studio with small complaints of pain. After a few lessons, the pain or discomfort they feel seems to root from an imbalance in the body somewhere. Often it is not obvious where this imbalance stems from. But one thing I see as a common issue amongst sedentary office workers is the lack of support around the pelvis and the shoulders. Tanya and Cecilia are here to demonstrate a few useful exercises you can do at home or in the office. An analogy for this would be to imagine you have a chain, a very small, fine chain. And let's say it's tangled or it's knotted. The first thing you might want to do is just to pull it. And then you notice that when you pull it, it tightens. So what you need to do is to wiggle it. You need to attempt to loosen it so that when you pull it, it slides. This is similar to body tissue. First, we want to wiggle or loosen the tissues before stretching or strengthening it. If we attempt to first stretch or strengthen, then we may make the knot tighter, which is not our objective at all. Here we are with Cecilia and Tanya, and we're all going to do a little bit of fascial release. This little ball is great. It's about the size of a golf ball. It has some little green spikes on it. And why I really like these balls better than, for instance, something flat, like a roller, for instance, that might be flat, is because if you look at this cross here, if I rub this with my hand, which is a flat surface, we don't see a lot of distortion in that X. If I take this ball, which has some little spikies on it, and I start to roll it up and down, we see quite a bit more distortion of this figure on my arm, which means that it's working its way down into the tissues below and affecting them. So like I spoke about earlier about the chain that we want to loosen up before we stretch it or strengthen it, the same with the tissues. We want to untangle the tissues. If we look at Cecilia, what she's doing here is she's trying to release the shoulder girdle a little bit, or the upper extremities. You can see she's doing little techniques by kind of squishing and turning the tissue and then she's rolling it. So she's following the fibers. And by doing this, she's trying to achieve more mobility in the shoulder. So if she was now to take this off, and we can see she lifts that same arm up, she has a nice feeling of flexibility in those tissues. And if she was to do that with the other arm, we see a little bit more stiffness. So this is kind of the selling point of doing this, okay? We have Tanya who's doing the same thing with her foot right now. She's leaning into it and putting some pressure, just like Cecilia was pressing into it and turning it. And what she's affecting is the fascial underneath of the foot, which kind of works itself all the way up the back around to the top of the head, very similar to reflexology. She's also twisting and moving it around. The objective of working with the feet is to loosen up the knots in the whole back side of the body. She might also want to then start doing a little bit more freedom movement. This is something I like to do in the morning. I keep this in my bathroom and I do it while I'm brushing my teeth or any time in the day. It's great in your briefcase. You can keep it in your desk drawer. You can keep it in your purse when you're on the airplane. And you can rub any part of your body that you might have a tightness or an adhesion or a stickiness. Okay, so if we have Tanya just put the ball to the side and we'll just ask her to roll down, what we're hoping for is that she'll feel a looseness through the whole back side of this body, and we might even be able to see a little bit more length on one side than the other side. So then we'd have her roll up, and this would be her selling point, and she might say, ooh, do I feel better on that side? So we would then allow her to do the other foot so that she gets it more balanced. Celia is now doing the other side of her body so that she'll have mobility in that shoulder. But let's say maybe her knee was an issue and it wasn't feeling good. Maybe we just have a rub wherever the pain is, or perhaps her hips are a little stiff after sitting all day in the office and she rubs around here in order to give more freedom and to untangle. Any of this would be great to do before you do any sports: walking, running, bicycling, swimming, whatever your sport is, tennis, because it'll allow your tissues to loosen up so that when you go to work them, and when you go to strengthen them, they're not going to knot up. Okay, so this is a really great little tool that you can keep with you. As I mentioned previously, asymmetry around the body or the torso leads to problems below and above. So if this part isn't stable, or we don't have a good stability here, we may have problems in the limbs below or above these areas. Often we need to stabilize against the gravity. Gravity is pressing down on us, and that's something we can't change. It will always be there. So what we want to do is we want to learn to work with those forces. And so here's a couple simple exercises you can do during the day or first thing in the morning. So Celia, let's imagine she had an ankle issue in maybe one of her ankles. And we would have her lift up one foot, and then she's going to imagine she's brushing her teeth. So this is something she could do first thing in the morning after she'd already perhaps rolled on the balls. And so she's just there brushing her teeth as she balances on one side, right? So that's a really great thing to work on. We could have Tanya, let's say her buttocks are quite weak, and so she's at the office. And if I hold on to the ball for her, let's just have her stand up using no hands. So she just stands up and she sits back down, stands up and sits down, stands up. Now, we could call these squats and down. Let's get her to do that 5 more times. Up and down. What she wants to do when she stands is straighten those legs so those hips come right up to standing. She works those buttocks and down. Great. So these are a couple of things we could do during the day to make your life a little bit better, to make your body a little bit stronger. We've now integrated these small exercises into our daily routine. Now we have to ask ourselves, why? Why are we doing this? Well, we have something called proprioception. Proprioception is your sense of self. It allows your body to achieve tasks without you directly looking at your arm or limb while you're doing them. So for Cecilia, what we're trying to attempt here is, if you can see her ankle, there's all kinds of little twitches and stuff going on through the knee, through the hips, right up to the body. So the body is sending messages back and forth to the brain. How is it doing that? Through the nervous system. So we're training her nervous system to be more efficient until she starts to achieve a better stability through the ankle, through the knee, up through the hips, and right up through the body. If we look at Tanya, she's doing the same thing. She's swinging her arms or moving them around while she tries to balance on one foot while sitting on a ball. The ball is not stable. She does not have a stable base. She only has one foot on the floor, and then she's moving her arms. So her body is doing the same thing. It's looking to find stability. Messages are being sent back and forth to the outside limbs, back to the nervous system, through the cord, and up to the brain. So she's training her nervous system indirectly by asking it to find stability through mobility. These are great little exercises that you can incorporate into your day, as I already said, and now you kind of know why. Then what you would want to do over time is start to test yourself. Maybe this would get too easy for Cecilia and she'd have to start standing on a surface that isn't as stable. So let's ask her, she's got a roller here. Let's ask her then to take, I'll give her a stick for the first part so she doesn't fall down. She's going to stand up on a roller. This could be any surface that's not stable. A roller's perfect because it moves back and forth. So what she's going to do, if I may take the stick away from her, she's going to come back on top. Let's give you that stick again. That was a bit too early. And she's going to try and move her feet back and forth to challenge her body in a vertical position, which is a great position to work it in because we spend a lot of the day in a vertical position or in a seated vertical position. So what's happening now as she gets more and more in tune, again, she's training a nervous system by the messages going back and forth from the brain and the spinal cord to the body. Let's look at Tanya. Let's have her walk her feet away from the ball. She's going to put her upper back on the ball. We'll let her put her 2 hands behind her head to give her neck some support. She's got a wide stability base right here. Let's bring her feet a little closer together so she's challenging her base of stability. We could even lift her up onto her toes. And now she's already having to work. We're trying to keep the pelvis stable. And then let's ask her to lift one leg out. Wow, great job. She's on a very small base of stability. Her heel is up and she's balancing and she's working very well to maintain the pelvis in a nice neutral position. Let's try the other side, because one side is not always the same. And this is what I mean by challenging asymmetry. Great, so now there we go. So this side is a little bit more difficult for her. Everybody has one side that's more difficult than the other. Okay, good. So we're seeing this nice cross stabilization going on. Let's make Celia's work a little more difficult. She has a ball and Celia wants to grab her ball, and now she can practice her circus tricks by juggling her ball a little bit. So now we've taken the focus off of the stabilization and of her trying to balance, and we've changed her concentration. So the task becomes a little bit more natural in a certain form by her now playing with the ball. We could do the same with Tanya if she wants to walk herself back out, and we'll ask her to support her neck just with her muscles now and reach her arms out and kind of spiral the arms around. She's going to go back up on the toes. So now she's changed her base of stability because she's got the toes up, but she's now challenging it by moving her arms. So it's taking more connections, more of the nervous system. It's a more complex movement. But these are great things. This is how you can progress yourself over time. Great work, you guys. Good. Okay, so let's now take this challenge of trying to find asymmetry into different positions. We have Cecilia, who is facing the floor, and Tanya, who is facing up. There's a few things we need to also think about while we're doing all this, and some of that is engaging our pelvis and the muscles that support our pelvis. So what I'm going to ask both of them to do is think about imagining from bone to bone, they have a little cord, and it's kind of like a drawstring, or the cord is pulled tighter as they exhale. So in this position with Celia with a nice flat back, a neutral pelvis, which means that the pelvis is neither tucked nor arched. We're going to ask her to exhale and connect across from one hip to the other. Tanya, who's lying on her back, will do the same. She will connect from one hip to the other as they exhale. Okay? So that's one thing that you can think about as well. Now we see that we've made Cecilia's base quite stable. She's got her hands quite close to the roller, her knees quite close to the roller. So it's already not a comfortable position. We're going to challenge her stabilization of her body by lifting up one limb and then two limbs. So we'll ask her to straighten one leg away from her and lift it up. And we want to make sure that she doesn't fall into her abdominals, and her abdominals keep working her against gravity by holding up her pelvis. And then she'll bring the leg back down. By lifting the leg, we're working the back side of the leg, and she stretches it out. So we get a good contraction into this area. The abdominals are supporting the pelvis. We want her shoulders sliding down her back and the neck reaching out. And then down. Okay, so Celia can keep doing that for a second. What we're going to do with Tanya is we're going to flex both her feet so that we take the work more into the upper thigh at the back. And we'll ask her to lift her pelvis up. We're trying to just have a nice straight line down towards her head. To challenge her, we'll get her to fold one leg up, kind of like marching, and she folds. She's also trying to maintain this line across her hips, working the back side of the bottom especially, and then change, and the other side. We want to be careful that her shoulders are not taking extra work and that she maintains the same amount of surface underneath both shoulders while she does this. And then we'll ask her to march a little faster, 1 and 2. And then Tanya can put her both feet down and then just lower her pelvis for a minute and take a break. Celia, now we're going to add and make this a little bit more difficult by lifting an arm and a leg in opposition. And you saw how she lifted up because she kind of collapsed, so she lifted herself up a little bit. And we'll let her try the other side. And remember, one side's not going to be the same as the other. We all have asymmetries in our bodies. We all do things in the day, and we have preferential sides that we work with. And then we can have Tanya be doing the same thing. So we'll have her lift up her pelvis. She'll march one leg and one arm in opposition. in the opposite side, opposite leg, opposite arm. This is working cross from one shoulder to the hip, across the front, across the back, same as Celia. Great, and then bring yourself down. Celia's now going to challenge this by trying to bring up the same leg and arm on the same side, And she goes up. Now this is more difficult, and you can see, whoa, she falls over because she's got to work this leg here quite significantly around the hip in order to maintain the stability. Let's have her try that again. And she's going to have to work to find the muscles of the back to support the shoulders, the abdominals, and bring it down. Now let's try the other side. See which side is more difficult for Cecilia. We've just put a stick there to maintain the stability of the roller. Whoa, this side's a lot more difficult. Okay, and bring that arm down. So this is something that she'll need to work on regularly in order to improve. Celia has a small scoliosis, so there is a big asymmetry already in her body. This side is already a lot more easy for her than the other side was. And so we'll let Celia continue to work with that. And we'll come back to Tanya. And Tanya's going to go and now do also the arm and the leg on the same side and see how this works. And that's pretty good, right? She's working really well into the back of her legs. Her pelvis is maintaining a nice neutral pelvis. Her neck is nice and released. And good. Take yourselves down. Excellent. Okay, to continue this story, let's imagine that you're sitting in your office or you're at home and you want to work on these exercises and on your asymmetries. You've got 2 minutes. Let's see how we can put this together. If you don't have a ball, this could be a chair, this could be your desktop. Celia's just practicing what we already did, which was lifting the opposite leg and opposite arm, trying to maintain her pelvis flat and level to the floor by connecting into her abdominals, working the back of her hips, working the upper body, and reaching her neck from her shoulders. This is quite difficult because we're getting a little bit closer to real life and how we might work, maybe while we're playing sports. But we don't work on the floor a lot and crawl unless you're a baby. Great. Okay, so her body's starting to learn the exercise. Great, thank you. We're now taking Tanya's work into a more functional place, in a more vertical upright position. And she's going to stand up with the opposite leg and arm, and down. Stand up with the opposite leg and arm, and down. And we'll have her now do the arm and leg on the same side. And it looks easy, but she's working very hard. And there's a lot of stability through her pelvis, through her shoulder girdle. She's activating the abdominals. She's activating the butt to stand up. Her shoulders are working into the back. The chest is opening. The head is reaching to the ceiling. And we could challenge her by asking her to go faster. So pick up your tempo. Up and down, and then stay up. If we take a look at kind of the crossing, which we've been doing quite a bit already in the last few minutes, if we go from shoulder to hip, if we can all just spiral around to face the window, and we can look at the back side from hip, buttock to shoulder, and we'll just hold this to her buttock, right, one to the butt, and then butt to shoulder. We kind of have these crosses or slings. Let's turn back around towards the window again. Now, if she just drops her arms down, I don't want to get into the depth about one looser and one tighter. Asymmetry will create that. What I would like to present to you is just the idea of what you need to do in the day. So if you imagine that you have these cords in your body all day, and they're pulling down on you through gravity, one, you want to lift your head up and through to the sky, through the ceiling to the sky. And then if we have these elastics pulling down and crossing, we could ask Cecilia just to pull up and stretch her elastics evenly. So she feels like she's kind of pulling out of her hips and stretching both front, back, diagonals. How does that feel?
Very good.
And if we just take these off and we let them go, and we can see now that she's very lifted. And if you want to do the same thing, Tanya, we can all kind of just get that idea, is that we take these crosses and we pull ourselves up as if we're reaching through the elastics, head to the ceiling, and then in conclusion, we can come up to a balance to test where we are. So just pull yourselves up away from the floor, and then slowly lower yourselves down. Now, hopefully, you're going to feel a lot better after some of these exercises than when you started, and you're going to start to create a better awareness of where your body is in space, which is a better proprioception. And you're going to start to use your body more efficiently in the day-to-day situations, and that's going to make you feel better. And that's always the objective of all workouts. Thank you very much. Thank you, Cecilia. Thank you, Tanya, for helping me today. And go get symmetrical. Thank you.